thank you so much, everybody, for being part of this. This is, I'm really excited about this. And thank you, Elliot, for sort of starting the idea. Thank you, Corey, for being so, just being great with helping to organize it. And thank you, Emily and Robin, for being techies. And thank you, everybody else, for volunteering to do your parts. And let's go do this. Thank you. So we'll let people in and get going.
We already have New York and Healdsburg represented here.
Oh, all right. Welcome,
Welcome
New York.
everyone to Or Shalom's Friday night Shabbat service. Really glad to see you all. And I'm very grateful to be able to assist and partially lead this service with Margot. And it's great to see everyone here. This service is a special service. First of all, it's a community-led service. So unless you demand while Rabbi Katie is here, she won't necessarily have to say anything. If she wants to, she can, as all of you, raise her hand. This is a special service because we're dedicating this service to the memory of Dr. Martin Luther King. And we're celebrating his famous Beyond Vietnam speech, delivered on April 4th, 1967. 1 year later, to the day, Dr. King would be assassinated. His work has been revived by the Poor People's Campaign under the leadership of Reverend Liz Theo-Harris and Bishop William Barber. The Poor People's Campaign is organizing poor and low wealth people and their allies in a movement dedicated to the principles Dr. King developed to fight systemic racism, poverty, and inequality, to end militarism and the war economy, and stop ecological devastation. I will note at the beginning that the Beyond Vietnam speech will be read in full this coming Monday, the 4th, on the anniversary of both the reading and his assassination. That will be at 5:30 at City Hall in San Francisco. Our own Rabbi Katie will be reading the most juicy portion. And I will have the Or Shalom banner to unfurl for the event. So please attend if you can. You can, if you desire, wear your new Or Shalom backpacks to identify yourself. I'll be wearing mine because it'll be a little too chilly for t-shirts. This evening, the other aspect about the special part of this service is that we are going to be using the elements of the speech, that Beyond Vietnam speech, to substitute for many of the elements of the formal Shabbat Eve service. I want to thank Margot, who did most of the intellectual work and editing work, and to those who are reading and everyone here for attending and showing up. That's the best thing. Let's begin this evening by lighting Shabbat candles. And Betsy, please light your candles and say the blessing as we light ours.
And if any of you have candles at home you'd like to light, or run and get one or two, if you don't have regular Shabbat candles. This blessing was written by Marcia Falk. May our hearts be lifted, our spirits refreshed, as we light the Sabbath candles.
Thank you, Betsy. And as you're lighting your candles and contemplating that wonderful light of Shabbat, Miriam and Doug will sing a song that brings us to that time in the civil rights era. This is one of my favorite songs from that time. Thank you very much, Miriam and Douglas.
on my way to freedom land. I'm on my way, oh, to freedom land. I'm on my way to freedom land. I'm on my way, great God Almighty, I'm on my way. I asked my brother, oh, to come with me. I asked my brother, oh, to come with me. I asked my brother, oh, to come with me. I'm on my way, great God Almighty, I'm on my way. I asked my sister, won't you go with me? I asked my sister, won't you go with me? I asked my sister to please go with me. I'm on my way, great God Almighty, I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go it alone. If they say no, I'll go it alone. If they say no, 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 I'll go it alone. I'm on my way, great God Almighty, I'm on my way. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, great God Almighty, I'm on my way. I'm on my way, oh, I won't turn back. I'm on my way, oh, I'll never turn back. I'm on my way, hey, I won't turn back. I'm on my way, praise God Almighty, I'm on my way.
Wow. That was quite a rendition, you two. Thank you so much for reviving that song for us. It really sets the mood for the evening, a mood of hope, a mood of struggle, a mood of a positive future. And I'll tell you that right now, I need that personally. So it's good to hear it. Next in the order of service, usually after an opening song, there are psalms of various kinds. We've already invoked Great God Almighty and the blessings of the infinite that we bring in purpose with ourselves this evening. Our song of praise, a particular song of praise, of course, comes from the Beyond Vietnam speech. Dr. King here in this paragraph from the speech refers to the 1956 Montgomery bus boycott that he led at the beginning of the mid-20th century civil rights movement. He says in the speech this: I will say beforehand, that prayers of praise and gratitude for me are the forms of prayer that are most meaningful to me. I'm not a great supplicant, being a solid member of the Considering God Salon, but I'm a really good praiser in gratitude. And so Dr. King says this, that we felt was useful for this time in our service, especially after that wonderful song. As I try to delineate for you and for myself the road that leads from Montgomery to this place, I would have offered all that was most valid if I simply said that I must be true to my conviction that I share with all men the calling to be a son of the living God. Beyond the calling of race or nation or creed is this vocation of sonship and brotherhood and daughtership, we will add. And because I believe that the Father, the Infinite One, is deeply concerned, especially for his suffering and helpless and outcast children, I come tonight to speak for them.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you for starting us off with those words from Dr. King. Next part of the service is usually a teaching. And for the teaching tonight, we're going to take the heart of Dr. King's message. This is a passage from the portion that Katie's going to read on Monday. And as Corey referenced, it's a juicy portion. It's a really, really juicy portion. And Dr. King in this section, it's a long speech with a lot of history of militarism, and but in this section of the speech, he turns to make it more general, and he calls on us to turn away from materialism and war and turn toward human values and peace. And he chastises the American foreign policies that side with the wealthy and the powerful abroad, rather than with the people, the peasants, the downtrodden. And he finds the source of that wrong-headedness right here in our own hearts. Elliot will read from Dr. King's words.
I'm going to go off script for a minute. Before I start reading, I just want to give a little bit of context in case people don't know. This was the first time he spoke about anything other than God and civil rights. And it was at the Riverside Church in New York. It was a real turning point in his development as a prophet, basically, where he spoke about how the wars over there are really a war on us, a war on all of us regular people. Okay, back to the script. He writes, I'm convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society, when machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people. The giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. On the one hand, we are called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, but that will be only an initial act. One day we must come to see that the whole Jericho road must be transformed so that men and women will not be constantly beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth. With righteous indignation, it will look across the seas and see capitalists of the West investing huge sums of money in Asia, Africa, and South America, only to take the profits out with no concern for the social betterment of the countries and say, this is not just. The Western arrogance of feeling that it has everything to teach others and nothing to learn from them is not just. The nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. America, the richest and most powerful nation in the world, can well lead the way in this revolution of values. There's nothing except a tragic death wish to prevent us from reordering our priorities so that the pursuit of peace will take precedence over the pursuit of war.
Wow. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Elliot. That's the teaching for tonight. And as Elliot said, it was a turning point in sort of for Dr. King and for lots of people to sort of connect the dots around poverty and racism here and militarism and war as our foreign policy. It's an amazing speech. If you get a chance, read the whole thing. I was unfamiliar with this until we started working on this service. The next part of our service is the call to prayer, the Baruch Hu. And tonight we're going to substitute the call to prayer with a call to action from Dr. King's speech. It's not in the section of the speech that I'm going to read, but the poetic description that we've all heard about, sort of to light your fire is the fierce urgency of now. That's a phrase from this speech. And I think this call to action can substitute for our call to prayer tonight. We must move past indecision to action. We must find new ways to speak for peace in Vietnam and justice throughout the developing world, a world that borders on our doors. If we do not act, we shall surely be dragged down the long, dark, and shameful corridors of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. Now, let us begin. Now, let us rededicate ourselves to the long and bitter, but beautiful struggle for a new world. This is the calling of the sons of God, and our brothers wait eagerly for our response. Shall we say the odds are too great? Shall we tell them the struggle is too hard? Or will there be another message of longing, of hope, of solidarity with their yearnings, of commitment to their cause, whatever the cost? The choice is ours. And though we may prefer it otherwise, we must choose in this crucial moment of human history.
Thank you very much, Margot. Now we prepare for the Shema. And of course, the Shema is a deeply important prayer for us and will be chanted this evening as usual. It acknowledges the unity of the infinite, or rather describes that unity by using the words our God. It implies belief or faith in a religion that does not require faith for membership or communion. And it remains a touchstone of our ritual time together. It has poetic and social implications that we hear about all the time in people's real lives, in moments of crisis or trauma, or also in moments of blessing and joy. It's just one of those prayers that is in our minds and on our lips. And I've always felt identifies me as a Jew and as someone who is part of this communion. Prayers of love precede the Shema. And this evening, that sentiment is drawn from Beyond Vietnam and is read by Judith and Michael. After that, Margot will chant the Shema and I will read the Ve'ahavta.
When I speak of love, I'm not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I'm speaking of that force which all of the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door, which leads to ultimate reality. this Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist belief about ultimate reality is beautifully summed up in the first epistle of St. John.
Let us love one another, for love is God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. If we love one another, God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. Let us hope that this spirit will become the order of the day. We can no longer afford to worship the God of hate or bow before the altar of retaliation. The oceans of history are made turbulent by the ever-rising tides of hate. History is cluttered with the wreckage of nations and individuals that pursue this self-defeating path of hate.
As Arnold Toynbee says, love is the ultimate force that makes for the saving choice of life and good against the damning choice of death and evil. Therefore, the first hope in our inventory must be the hope that love is going to have the last word.
Thank you so much, Judith and Michael. Dr. King on love. What could be better? It's just so, those words. So let's gather ourselves, say the Shema. When I'm done with the Shema, Corey will say the Ve'ahavta. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. I'm sorry. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lebavcha v'b'chol nafshecha v'b'chol meodecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. V'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'leftecha b'derech uv'shachtecha uv'kumecha. Ukshartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha. Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvi sharecha. We'll continue in our service in preparation for the Amidah, the next element of the service that we'd like to celebrate this evening. The Amidah, interestingly enough, our silent prayer, is a central part of our service. It is a prayer that offers the opportunity for everyone attending to fully participate and to use this time in their own way, within their own meaning. This is when we open our hearts, listen to our inner selves, and find our connection to the eternal and to the wishes of our deepest needs and desires. We're going to ask Deborah to read a poem that was read by Dr. King within his speech of Beyond Vietnam. And I see we're not at the half hour yet, so I'm going to impose upon you after that a paragraph from our own Siddur that I read during every Amidah.
As that noble bard of yesterday, Jane Russell Lowell, eloquently stated, Once to every man and nation comes the moment to decide in the strife of truth and falsehood for the good or evil side. Some great cause, God's new Messiah, offering each the bloom or blight, and the choice goes by forever twixt the darkness and that light. Though the cause of evil prosper, yet his truth alone is strong. Though her portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wronged. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. James Russell Lowell.
Thank you, Deborah. And let's have a moment of silence for the Amidah. You may stand or sit as is your desire, and words or others during this time. And we'll come back with the extra reading that I'm going to foist on you.
Oh, no, yeah, you muted again. Oh, you muted again. Very slow.
Thank you very much, and I'll bring you back to our screen. I'm just offering these two portraits of Dr. King. They sit above my desk in my site. Every day I'm here in my studio. This one was painted by a woman prisoner in Iowa that I bought at a prison art show. This one by a local house painter in my neighborhood. And now I would like to share with you the paragraph that I read. There's a poem above it on page 743 in our prayer book, which I read before, which is very nice. But this one is very meaningful to me and kind of sets me, I can say it sets me on my feet every time we have an Amidah together and the prayer book is at my hand. It's a adaptation of a writing by Albert Einstein. Strange is our situation here upon earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why. yet sometimes seeming to divine a purpose. From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know, that we are here for the sake of each other. Above all, for those upon whose smile and well-being our own happiness depends, and also for the countless unknown souls with whose fate we are connected by a bond of sympathy. Many times a day, I realize how much my own outer and inner life is built upon the labor of others, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received and am still receiving.
Thank you, Corey. That was lovely. So true. We're so also interconnected, and we stand on other people's shoulders, and other people stand on our shoulders, and our lives are pretty much meaningless without connection with the people around us and the love that Judith and Michael talked about. Dr. King talked about it. Judith and Michael read for us. So we're going to move into the healing part of the service, and we generally pray for healing of our bodies, for spirits of our own and others. Dr. King called for healing the whole world, healing the wrong relationships among nations and among the various kinds of people. He calls us to seek brotherhood more widely, to care about humanity as a whole, saying that by looking more broadly for brotherhood, we can make ourselves stronger, and each of our smaller tribes stronger as well. Robin's going to read Our Only Hope from Dr. King's speech.
Our only hope today lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into a sometimes hostile world, declaring eternal hostility to poverty, racism, and militarism. With this powerful commitment, we shall boldly challenge the status quo and unjust mores, and thereby speed the day when every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. A genuine revolution of values means, in the final analysis, that our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Every nation must now develop an overriding loyalty to mankind as a whole in order to preserve the best in their individual societies.
Thank you, Robin. Robin's going to sing the healing prayer while I read the healing list. We're going to try and see if this works. Rabbi Meir Elias, Judy Lionel, Claire Garcia, Paul Hartsoe, David Hartsoe, Barbara Gustafson, Sandy Matthews, Emily Delician, Stephen Gerard, Estella Habal, Ali, Heyman, Paula Levine, Alexandra Finkelstein, Orlo and Carol Clark, Rabbi Michael Lerner, Dylan James Black, John Furman, Yvonne Sandoval, Jeffrey Jorge Cohen, Patricia Crosby, Michael Embry, Adenbat Matilda Yitzhak, Cindy Schiffman, Jacqueline Campbell, Joel Rosen, Raiz Chow, Rothman, Davis, Saren, Ishmael Casada, Ebony and Vernal, Christina Guglielmino, Alex Page Oxy, Doug Hilbert, Lou Fisher, Tony, David Habib, Colleen Schulten, Fred Goff, Sue Shu, Ken Goldberg, Jeff Balch, Brandy Jackson, Powell Hauser, Kevin Thaw, Ellen Jones, Hayden Pastor, Dennis Collins, Marty Schwartz, Charles Small, Gary Cohen, Tara Trudell Bot John Ballou, Margese George, Judy Bush, Delia Prado, Catherine Diamond, Sharon Richardson, Sam Geffner, Phyllis Thurm. We also pray for healing for those our friends who are caught up in the detention system in the United States. Yvonne, Melvin, Patrice, Kevin, Maria and her sons, Jose Eduardo, Melissa, Diego, Edgardo, and Emily. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Margot. The last element of the service that we wanted to present this evening is the mourner's Kaddish. Before we do that, I would like to entertain any comments that people have, or well, two things. First, anyone who has someone who has recently passed, or they don't hear on the healing list, on the yahrzeit list, please put them in the chat, or before we begin the prayer. We're almost all on one screen except for Debbie and Frida. So you can just raise your hand a bit so that you can see that when to unmute yourself and briefly unmute yourself and say the name, or put the names in the chat. But I thought it might be a useful time if anyone has anything to share about the service so far, or reflections they have about their own lives, or what this kind of dramatic moment in 1967 that we raise up today and will be raised again on Monday brings to them. And I'll just say of myself that this was a terribly important time in my life, a time that changed my direction, that brought me to you all, really, because I was just a young, kid doing all the good things that you're supposed to do, and going to grammar school and high school and achieving, and going to, getting enough credits to get into medical school, and speeches like this of Dr. King's turned my life around and sent me in a whole other direction. I wound up as a draft resistor, not even thinking twice. I thought about this week. I didn't think twice that I might have faced 5 years in the federal penitentiary. Didn't think about it. It was not important. It was not an issue. You just did it because it was Vietnam and it was the draft, and I was around all these draft resistors. And Dr. King was my main inspiration for all of this. And when he was assassinated, of course, I think like many, I took that to heart, and I understood a bit deeper about what America was about, and pledged myself to do the best I could within my own limitations to bring about the world that Dr. King is envisioning in these speeches. So I'll share that personal thing just as an encouragement to anyone else to reflect or just talk about these aspects of our lives and our memories of Dr. King. And you can just raise your hand, and if you can, and I can call on you, and so you can unmute if anyone would like to say anything. Did I stifle discussion immediately? So sorry, being so dramatic. There we are, Beth, thank you.
Well, I would just like to say that I am so grateful in my deepest heart for finding this community that can put on a service like this, that can put on the God Salon last Wednesday, and many, many other things. It's just an extraordinary group of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Beth.
And you are,
I just showed up tonight. My name is Brandon. My last name is Luhan. I just have to say, while I obviously wasn't there during the era, I have to say it's so wonderful to come in here tonight and see such a wonderful example of justice shall you pursue, not putting a stumbling block in front of the blind. And I just feel like I've opened the door to a wonderful new community, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
and what is your name, sir?
It's Brandon Luhan.
Brandon, welcome, Brandon.
Thank you.
Welcome. It was like, yeah, we're kind of experimenting with community-led services, although I guess we've been trying to do it for quite a while, but this is a kind of experiment. So
Anyone else just like to add a comment or a musing?
come on, we got a whole room full of Jews and nobody's talking. Okay, Katie, Deborah.
I'll say a word. So I just, for a long time, have had this hope. Well, first of all, just noticing that at Orshlam we have this band of baby boomers, and and since I was a young adult, I think I have admired that generation and felt I aspired to be part of movements like the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, and have just taken inspiration from that time and from Dr. King my whole adult life. And you know, Dr. King, as long as I can remember, was really one of top 2 or 3 heroes that I looked up to and aspired to you know, follow in his footsteps. And it's so valuable to hear the recollections and stories like what you just shared, Corey, about how living through that time and having direct contact shifted your life story and inspired you to take action in a way that was not just back then, but has been a whole life, you know, a whole many decades of incredible work that you've done, and you know, movements you've been a part of. So I feel like it's so important to tell those stories and to pass the baton, and to let those of us who didn't live through that time ourselves just hear the stories and feel the inspiration, and then apply it to our world today. And so thank you for that.
See, Debbie wanted to chime in as well. Thank you, Rabbi.
Oh, thanks. I just was so struck by Dr. King's words that they're so prescient. Well, not prescient. I mean, they were timely then and they're timely now. They're just so spot on. And for our time, for us, and I have to say, it makes me feel a little sad that we don't seem to have made much progress, but we're still hoping and fighting.
Amen to that. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like in French, they say plus ça change, plus la même chose. The more it changes, the more it stays the same.
So we have a queue now. We have Deborah and Leslie. Deborah?
Yeah, so by the time King's death happened, I had already encountered several deaths, and the death that kind of, because they were so close to me and people I knew, was the Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner deaths. And I still have this candle holder with their pictures on it that I don't know Ben the Ark, I guess, gave it to me, but I have, yeah, these three men were the folks who died during Mississippi summer, and a Black man and two, in fact, Jewish men, Andy and yeah, Schwerner and Goodman were young Jewish men, and one of the persons that became a very close friend here, my friend Annie Popkin, was in Mississippi, and there's a whole network of veterans of the civil rights movement. I did not go to Mississippi, but I know many people and their folks around the Bay Area community who went, and it's very profound. So yeah, it's a candle I didn't light tonight, but perhaps I should light it right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Then Leslie, then Robin.
I just wanted to say that I was pretty young when Martin Luther King was killed, but in my city, the civil rights movement was very present and there was a lot of upheaval. So I knew the importance of him and I was devastated at his death. And I didn't really read his, a lot of his words and understand his broader vision until well into adulthood. And I still, every time I encounter it, I feel like I have to go back and study this deeply, but I haven't. So a service like this really touches me to my core. And I just really want to thank everyone who has been involved in putting it on. It's much needed, and it both heals and also, what's the word, gives me keach to keep going. So thank you all.
Thank you for that, Leslie. As I said, I was not familiar with this work before we started working on this service, and just Google Beyond Vietnam, Martin Luther King, and you can read the whole thing. It's just an amazing speech, and it has a long involved history of the United States involvement in Vietnam and the Vietnam mess before the United States got involved there, which, I don't know, and just it's a wonderful, wonderful speech. If you have, an hour or so to read it, just get in there and dig in, or go on Monday and listen to Rabbi Katie do part of it. And I guess part of it is going to be in sign language, and part of it, they've got, I think, 16 different people working on it who will read different parts of it. So it should be good on Monday. It looks like we have Robin and Betsy in line.
Oh, thank you, Deborah, for sharing that candle. I went to college with Goodman's younger brother, just, year or so after that had happened. So it was really wonderful to see that memorial. And just, speaking as a baby boomer and active in civil rights in anti-Vietnam War movements in the 60s. And I remember going to Richmond, Virginia on it was either United Synagogue Youth or BBG, some kind of conference, and looking for someone in the telephone book and realizing that it was a segregated telephone book.
What?
Yeah. What? Colored people, Negroes were in the back of the telephone book. It was pretty shocking. I was in horror. Anyway, I just want to say that while we certainly have so far to go, we have come a long way from an actual segregated telephone book, and we all know the history and what we've gone through. But to the point where we're having nuanced conversations about reparations and how to heal these wounds that are so deep in our country. And I think, that's a really fruitful path that we're all on. So we've come a long way, even though we have far to go.
Thank you, Robin. Betsy and Beth, is your hand still up from before, or is your hand really up? Okay. Betsy, you had comments, question, comment?
Rather than thinking about what Martin Luther King in that time meant to me then, I've just, the time that we're in now and how easy it is to just feel so cynical and overwhelmed with everything that's going on in the world and what we're up against. And I think a lot of us have been having PTSD for the last 5 years of our lives, from Trump to pandemic to Ukraine. I mean, just so many things going on. And I heard this, and when I think about, every time I think that, just when I have sometimes a sense of despair, that some things have gone backwards, some things have, as Robin pointed out, have been, we've certainly come some way. I just think about what it must feel like for people who, took part in the civil rights movement and what they were up against and how brutally they were treated, and they still showed up. When they came out of jail, beaten up, they came back. And so somebody said this, I'm terrible at memory, as some of you know, this quote, and I don't know who it was, and I don't know if I got it right, but it's important to keep, the term was pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. Pessimism of the intellect and optimism of the will. It may not have been of intellect, maybe it's the mind, but optimism of the will. And so I love that. I'll try to find out who said it and what the actual quote is, but that's how I remember it. And so that's what I feel that I take away from the experience of the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King, is that will. You have to have that will, you have to have that hope.
Yeah. It reminds me a little of when, do you remember Howard Lindsay came to speak to us at one Passover, and he was talking about how his Christian faith is based in hope, that's just hope, like an optimistic hope kind of thing. Yeah. Anybody else, or should Corey, you want to go into the Kaddish?
Is that Elliot?
Elliot, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, maybe if this is going to be the last comment, I'm thinking about so many great things that people have brought up, and we've come a long way, or have we? And I'm sure you all know that today, finally, an anti-lynching law was passed.
Yeah.
The 112th time that it was brought up or something. I mean, is that a victory? But what really hits me, and I think Robin, somebody just said something about, needing to heal and stuff. I don't know if anybody watches Democracy Now!, they interviewed the granddaughter of Ida B. Wells and the cousin of Emmett Till. So this is the Emmett Till anti-lynching law. And Amy Goodman was asking them, what do they think about, there were 3 Southern white senators who voted against it, only 3. And she's like, well, what do you feel about them? I felt like she was goading them on to be angry, and I was getting angry. And both of them said, they'll be judged, and I'm told to pray for them, and I will. And I think when we talk about healing, we need to heal ourselves.
Yeah. Wow, those are some big people, huh? Those are big people that can do that. Thank you for that, Elliot. Shall we move into the Kaddish, Corey?
Okay. So for those of you, we do have a yard site list that will be read silently while I'm reading the Kaddish. But But if there are people who would like to mention anyone who they are remembering today or this week, please unmute yourselves and say.
Well, Corey and I lost a friend Thursday, Bob Porterfield. He was the longtime partner of Corey's cousin Howard. And we only really got to know him after Howard passed away, but we went to visit him quite a bit. He was failing. He was supposed to die before Howard, but he died after. Anyway, we just lost him Thursday, and saying Kaddish for him.
Anyone else have any special, Robin?
I'd like to mention my mother-in-law, Ronnie Boss, who passed away in 2004, and a friend in my community, my homeschooling community, who died a few days ago, Jennifer Griffin.
I'm remembering my dear friend and family member, Maga Newberger. She was married to my father-in-law, Paul. I actually met her the same time I met Chester in 1989. And she passed away about 6 months ago, and I just was attending her memorial locally because she passed away in Germany this past Sunday. So she's on my mind. And she helped care for Carter when he was a baby. She helped me start singing to Carter when he was a baby. And she shared his birthday, which is Saturday, this Saturday the 2nd.
Thank you, Tala. Thank you, Robin. Anyone else?
Well, I don't know if my father's he died in the end of March 25th. So I don't know if he'd still be on the list, but my father, David Lesser, he died many years ago in 1971. And I'm remembering him today and every day.
Thank you, Judith. Other people. Okay, and so our yahrzeit list will be read, and as we say the Kaddish with these people in mind, and we say this amazing prayer that I would say that this is the one prayer from my childhood that imprinted itself on me. I was quite alienated from this Reformed congregation that was pretty, like many in those days, kind of seemed pretty vapid, but this little sing-song prayer has just kind of got to me as a child. And I'll read it, and please join in while muted, if you will. So to their memories. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, Alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, baga'ala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalel v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'ramav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. May the memory of our loved ones be as a blessing, and may the mourners among us find comfort in this community. And let's see, next we have announcements, which I don't have. Who has the announcements?
Sorry, I had the yard site list up. Let me see if I can get the announcements here. Sorry.
And while she's saying it, just to remind you, 5:30 Monday at City Hall. Look for me with the banner and the Or Shalom backpack on his back.
Okay. And let's see. Oh, there's a B'nai Mitzvah family program on April 3rd. I guess that's Sunday. And Sing Shalom the following Sunday. And this weekend, there'll also be a Bima leadership program tomorrow, Saturday. You can find that in the email about this weekend's, this weekend it's Or Shalom. And there'll be a Tikkun Olam program also the following Sunday, April 10th. And save the date for Pesach program with Ner Tamid, Sunday, April 17th, 5 to 7 p.m. And also remember to save the date for Rabbi Katie's going away. Is that May 14th? I'm doing this from memory, Katie. May 14th?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the announcements. And I think Corey has a.
Wait, I want to announce one more
Okay,
thing.
okay, one more announcement. Okay.
So just that we are, in case you didn't hear, Or Shalom has officially created an agreement with Brandeis, the Jewish day school that's next door to where we used to be located on Brotherhood Way. And we will begin to have gatherings there in person very soon. So next Friday, the 8th, and the 2 weeks after that on the 22nd, we will have Friday night services there at 6 o'clock. And so I really look forward to seeing you at those. And as Margot said, if any of you are interested in deepening your leadership skills, we still have spots at this Bima team training workshop, which is tomorrow afternoon at 4 and the following Saturday as well. I hope some of you will come to that.
And there's one thing I wasn't mentioned, and that is that on Sunday at 11 a.m., Night of Beginnings, a radical revisioning of the Passover Seder. It's a Zoom, and Marcia Falk will read from her new Haggadah, and she's just great. So don't miss it.
I hope it'll be recorded for those of us who have to miss it. But I've ordered the Haggadah, but I'd love to hear her.
The details on all those are in this week's newsletter.
So just wanted to say that I just found out that it will be recorded and it will be made available for a short period of time after the event. So Marcia Falk's talk will be recorded.
And let's see, Debbie has a.
Debbie, your hand's up.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. I just wanted to mention, in case people had missed the announcement, that I've been looking forward to this e-waste recycling thing on Sunday over on Brotherhood Way. So it's between 10 and 3 o'clock, and you drive up in your car and people will be there to help you and take stuff out of your car. You don't have to get out of your car. And it benefits the Southside Jewish Collaborative. It benefits our Tikkun Olam efforts. So now's your chance. All kinds of electronic everything you can bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. And I think if there are no other announcement, Ellie's got an announcement, and then Corey has a finale to take us out.
This is kind of an announcement. It's more of a report back. I just wanted people to know, Laura Bressler and I went today to deliver Mishloach Manot bags to 2 mosques downtown where we've been before. They were you know, it was great. It was fascinating to be. It's the last service before Ramadan starts this evening. It was packed, but we were very well received. I don't know, Laura, you want to just add anything? I just wanted you to know that this was like really on behalf of all of us.
Thank you so much for doing that, Elliot and Laura. That was lovely. And thanks for, I know Pat put together some extra bags for us when she was doing the Mishloach Manot. She put together some extra bags for us to take to some interfaith partners. So really appreciate that. So Corey has a sort of finale from Dr. King's speech to take us out this evening.
Right, so rather than have a final poem, we'll have a final paragraph from Dr. King. And to help inspire us and carry us into Shabbat. Dr. King said, and if we will only make the right choice, we will be able to transform this pending cosmic elegy into a creative psalm of peace. If we will make the right choice, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our world into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. If we will but make the right choice, we will be able to speed up the day all over America and all over the world, when justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Thank you, Dr. King. And thank you all for being here. What a joy to be with you tonight.